So when you think of raunchy rated R comedies, Tom Hanks probably isn't the first person that you think of. But 40 years ago, he made one of the best raunchy comedies of the 1980s. Of course, I'm talking about Bachelor Party. And like I just mentioned, this year is the 40th anniversary. So today, we're going to be checking out filming locations for Bachelor Party. Let's go see what we can find. This right here is the opening shot of the movie. All the kids are waiting right here on the sidewalk with Sister Mary Frances waiting to be picked up from school, but Rick is late again when suddenly the school bus pulls up and parks right about here. And this is the same spot where David Lee Roth's Hot Rod school bus would have pulled up and parked in the Van Halen Hot for Teacher music video. Right here is where Rick would have stepped off the bus and had a brief exchange with Sister Mary Frances. You can see a little bit of the houses across the street. Rick loads up the kids and the bus pulls away. And we do get one shot of the bus pulling away from John Marshall High School, but all of the rest of the shots of them on the bus, they're now in the San Fernando Valley. So he picks up the kids from John Marshall High School, and then for whatever reason, he's now in the San Fernando Valley, driving on Winnetka Avenue, going towards Lassen Street. Now everything that you see in the background is really quick and you have to pause it to see any of the houses or anything behind him, but you can see him pass by one house that has a little awning and a window and a vent, and then behind it you can see the garage and a door on the side of the garage. And if you look right over here, there's that house. The awning is still there, unbelievably. There's the window, the vent, there's the garage with the door on the side. And then behind that garage, across the alley, you can see another house that has a red brick chimney. You can't see it now because of the trees, but trust me, the chimney is still there. He continues down Winnetka, passes Lassen Street, and you see him pass by another house, a taller house that has a vent right in the center of the top of the house. And then as he continues past that house, he passes by an alley and you see a wooden fence. This is the alley that he passes by. The wooden fence has been replaced with a brick wall, but if you look at the brick wall on this side, it still has those different colored bricks making a pattern. And then directly across the street from the houses, there's another brick wall, and this can be seen multiple times throughout that scene while the kids are going crazy on the school bus. And then for some strange reason, they're now in a residential neighborhood, driving down Superior Street towards Oso Avenue. Now this spot where they're driving on Superior Street and Oso, this is just a couple of blocks away from where they just were on Winnetka Avenue, but like I already mentioned, it's nowhere near the school where he originally picks up the kids. Now although this is such a quick scene in the movie, it was one of the hardest locations to track down, so I'm pretty proud of this one. After taking the kids home from school, Rick stops off at Jay's place of business where he's trying to photograph a baby. Rick decides to get in on the fun and take some pictures with the mom. And the next stop was to pick up Rudy from the auto shop that he worked at, which was located right here. And we get an overhead shot that shows a little bit of the building across the street. The camera then pans over to the right and we get a better shot of the auto shop. And then right there in the center of the yard would have been the car that Rudy was working on. Now, of course, there's a gate, so we can't go into the yard, but roughly right about there is where Rudy would have been standing when he bends down to get a beer out of his ice chest, and then he accidentally drinks a can of STP. And if we turn the camera around and look in the opposite direction, you can see a water tank on top of a building, and you can see that behind Rudy. And the school bus would have entered into the yard using the driveway on the opposite side. And again, it's not really possible to get that same shot without standing in the yard, but at least one of the buildings that you see in the movie is still here. So the next stop is to pick up Gary at his place of business, and you see the school bus parked right here on the side of the building, and this was Ticket Time. It's now a spa, and unfortunately the Ticket Time building doesn't look exactly the same. It's changed a little bit. However, that white building next door looks exactly like it did 40 years ago. Now, in case you didn't know, Ticket Time was a real business here in Los Angeles, and I believe that this was a real Ticket Time location. And finally, they end up at the restaurant where Ryko works. And this is where they all sit down and have drinks, and Rick tells them that he's getting married. Now, that restaurant where Ryko worked was called Sutter's Bar and Grill, and this one was extremely hard to track down, but I found it, and it used to be located right here. It's now just an empty field. After it was Sutter's Bar and Grill, it was an Indian restaurant. I think before that, it was a place called Snooki's, but now it's nothing. But there's a few different times in that scene where you can see the businesses across the street, and there's one business that you can see that's multicolored. It has a bunch of different bright colors on it, and if you look right over here, there it is, the very same building and the very same business. You can just barely make out the name of that business in the movie. The colors on the building, the order of the colors has changed a little bit, so obviously they've repainted it, but that is definitely the same building. And so that tells us that this is definitely the place where Sutter's Bar and Grill used to be. Now, just a field of weeds. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find the location that was used for neon jeans, but rather than find the location, I want to shop at this store. All right, we are on our way to Debbie's parents' house. We're in, I think this is Bel Air. We're right across the freeway from the Getty Center. But we've got a little bit of a problem here. Got a bit of a roadblock. See that gate and that security guard? Well, on the other side of that gate and security guard, that's where Debbie's parents' house is. The good news is the house is still there, still has the pool and the tennis court in the backyard. The bad news is they don't want us coming in and looking at the house. The spot where Gary goes to look for girls is located in the alley directly behind this building. So there's now a gate, but you can see the stairs are still there that all the girls were hanging out around. And then right here at the bottom of the stairs is where the two girls were walking down. And right here is where Gary was standing and talking to the gentleman that was looking after the girls.
Great.
And after he's done talking to him, he walks out of the alley in this direction. And we then see Cole come from the alley on the other side of the street. And he, of course, starts talking to the guy and telling him that there's been a change of plans and he should send the girls to a different address. Cole, tricky. And that brings us to the main bachelor party filming location, the Biltmore Hotel, the location of the actual bachelor party. A lot of the movie was filmed inside of this building. And if you look right up there, that's actually the room where the bachelor party takes place. You can see there's a couple of different shots where it focuses on that window. I don't know if they actually filmed inside of that room or not, but that's supposedly where it takes place. So as they arrive at the hotel, right here is where the school bus was parked. You can see them walk past this tree, and you can also see this little triangle up here. Cole shows up to Rick's bachelor party to tell him that he's willing to give him his brand new Porsche that's parked across the street. All he has to do is stop seeing Debbie. Of course, Rudy runs across the street and steals the car so they can play a prank on Cole. Cole really should have known better. So this building right here, back in the day, this used to be Chippendales. And when Debbie's bachelorette party goes wrong, they head over here for a different kind of fun. Now, you never do see the outside of this building in the movie, but all of the interiors of the male strip club were filmed right here at Chippendales. So Rick and his friends leave the hotel for a little bit to head over to Chippendales. And this is the same hotel entrance that they use when they first arrive. As they leave the hotel, they just miss Debbie's dad, who shows up about 1 second later. He makes his way through the lobby and stops to make a phone call at a payphone that was located right here. Now, I don't know if that phone was actually here in real life or just placed here for the movie, but this is where it was. Rudy's in the lobby enjoying chocolate bars when he sees Cole and tells him that he should head outside to check out his car. And then Cole comes running out the front doors of the hotel trying to find his car. He looks across the street and he sees what Rudy did to it. The band finally arrives, and so do the people, and the bachelor party is now in full swing. So this is where Cole's sneaking back into the hotel, and he's all decked out in his army fatigues. And the way that you can tell that this is the right spot is by these two pipes and this little plaque right here. So the bachelor party's in full effect when it suddenly gets raided by the cops, and of course everybody makes a run for it. They jump in the elevators and head back down to the lobby. As they head back in the opposite direction, another crowd comes out of the elevators and separates Rick and Debbie. So everybody comes running from the elevators, and then they all try and squeeze through this door on the right side, which would just take you into a banquet hall. And then this is the door that everybody comes running out of. You can still match up these drain pipes coming out of the wall, and then they come running over in this area. You can see the school bus is parked over here. Everybody's standing here trying to figure out what's going on. And then as Debbie comes running out, Cole is waiting somewhere right about here, and he grabs her and then carries her off down this path. There's now a gate down there, but you can tell this is the same path, and Rick is standing over here trying to figure out what happened to Debbie when he looks down this way and he sees Cole carrying her off, and he goes running down this path to go rescue Debbie. Now this is where Rick comes running out, and he looks down the street and sees the truck driving off with Debbie. And like I said, there wasn't a gate here at the time, but other than that, for the most part, this all looks the same. And the chase continues up Grand Avenue, but nothing here really looks the same. There's so many new buildings that are blocking out the old ones. But this building right here, that's the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and that building is still there. It's just now blocked by the Walt Disney Concert Hall. But if we go down the street a little bit, you can see there it is. Now when the camera's pointing in the opposite direction, you can see this building on the right side and the AT&T tower on the left side. But other than that, nothing here is really recognizable because there's so many new buildings in this area. So the chase is going on through downtown Los Angeles, and then for whatever reason, they're now in Simi Valley, California, more than 40 miles away. It would be about an hour to 2 hour drive with traffic. But we see the truck pull into that driveway, and there was a building across the street that can be seen really well in the movie. Now, I'm not exactly sure when it got torn down, but I know it was still here in 2018. It's now been replaced with all of these townhouses. The truck then comes down this path and passes right by a Del Taco, and surprisingly, the Del Taco is still there. It's been remodeled, but the building is still the same. The truck continues on past the Del Taco. It makes a left at the end of the path, and then passes by these buildings. As you can see, all of these have changed. A few seconds later, the school bus pulls into the same driveway and then follows the same path that the truck took. It makes a left and then pulls up in front of the Mann movie theater, which would have been located right here where this Home Goods and some other shops now are. So everybody's now inside the movie theater, but Brad is still on the bus when he decides that he's had enough, and he gets behind the wheel of the bus and starts driving through the parking lot. He again passes by that same building across the street that's no longer there. He then comes down the path at the other end of the parking lot and starts heading right towards the movie theater, and then ends up crashing right through the wall into the theater. But of course, everybody in there just thinks that it's really great 3D.
This is the best 3D I've ever seen.
So this is the path that Brad is driving the school bus down. And then right over there, there would have been a little area for some dumpsters. That's no longer there. And there's some houses or townhouses that you can see in the movie across the street. Those are still there. They're just now blocked by all of those trees. But he would have driven the school bus down this path and then directly into the movie theater right here. Supposedly, this is the very spot where the school bus crashes into the movie theater. So Rick and Debbie finally get married. They have a nice little outdoor ceremony in a grassy area that overlooks the beach. Now, I can't say for sure that I was able to locate where that wedding took place, but I believe that it was in Palos Verdes, California, and I think it might have been at a place called the Wayfair Chapel, which is where a lot of other movies and TV shows were filmed. Now, if that wedding did take place here at the Wayfair Chapel, the bad news is we're not able to get on the grounds to look around and match up the shots, because just about 2 months ago, the chapel was closed to the public because of land movement, and from what I've read, it will not be opening back up because it's just too dangerous. Now, from what I can see, there's some things that match up and some things that don't, but if you look at this cliff right over here that has a couple of big rocks in the water, you can see a cliff and rocks just like that while they're getting married. And then as the bus drives away down that path, pay attention to this area over here. Looks very similar to the view that you get from the Wayfair Chapel. So again, I can't say for sure that this is where it took place, but I think it's definitely possible. All right, that's gonna do it for this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Now, just a field of weeds. But it used to be a field of dreams, but now it's just a field of weeds. I think I'm going crazy.